My read is that probably he will lose, but his lawyers have also asked for a stay, and it's possible the stay will be granted. The government, Jack Smith, has started with an argument that's far, far too broad, and that will probably lose. That is, he said, his opening statement basically suggested that a president's immunity does not extend beyond the time that he's in office. That is an absurd conclusion. That would mean that even if a president did something within his presidency, um, but then he's prosecuted after he leaves office, he can't invoke immunity. That would eviscerate immunity completely. Take, for example, it could apply to President Biden. Let's assume he leaves office, either is not elected or he leaves office after his second term, and then he's prosecuted for malpractice and maladministration or doing something on the border, that he can't invoke immunity for that just because he's no longer in office. That argument will be rejected either by the Court of Appeals or by the Supreme Court. But the core argument about immunity itself, I think he'll lose. I think Trump will lose in the Court of Appeals, but may very well win at least a limited victory in the United States Supreme Court. So this is a work in progress.
Okay, so your prediction here, based on what you're listening to, that Trump again would lose, much like the lower court, but then appeal again to the Supreme Court, and a potential somewhat victory there, should that be carried out. I'm curious to know, you were listening to Attorney John Sauer. I'm sure you were listening to, again, his arguments there, and again, a three-panel judges here, and the arguments being made. And one of them was former President Bush in his arguments in 2000, looking into the election at that time, hanging chads, et cetera. You would recall that. Is there any scenario, is there any case in which John Sauer, Trump's attorney, his legal team could pull out a win? And what would that scenario look like?
Well, of course, I was one of the lawyers in Bush versus Gore back in 2000. I represented the voters of Palm Beach County and appeared in the federal district court in Miami. That case was decided on purely political grounds, 5-4. 5 Republicans voted one way, 4 Democrats voted the other way. I don't think this case will be decided purely on a 6-3 Republican versus Democrat. I do think there are very substantial issues here regarding the scope of immunity, when immunity can be claimed, what is a presidential act. It's interesting. When Carter was president, I tried to get him to do something on behalf of my client, Anatoly Sharansky, as a private citizen. And I was told then that a president can't do anything as a private citizen. Everything a president does 24/7, 365 days a year is presidential. So there's a view that says the president really does not act as a private citizen, but the other side is arguing no. When the president is trying to break the law on January 6th, that can't be presidential. Again, I think he's going to lose in the Court of Appeals, but I think he has a chance of some kind of a partial victory, at least, in the United States Supreme Court, if the United States Supreme Court decides to take this case. The last words of the argument done on behalf of President Trump was, if we lose here, please at least give us a stay. And we'll see if that happens.
Right, because this is all happening, again, ahead of the 2024 election. So, if this were to move in D.C., we kind of know the makeup of the D.C. jury.
Right, and also in before this is happening. These arguments are happening just a couple of months before the scheduled trial date. So a stay would be important. There's no chance that Donald Trump can actually win on the merits in front of a D.C. jury. The D.C. jury is overwhelmingly anti-Trump, and that's why he has to be focusing on the legal issues and focusing on the Supreme Court. I think his lawyer made a tactical mistake the other day when she said, "Oh, don't worry, we can count on Kavanaugh." This was in the Colorado case because President Trump appointed him. That's exactly the wrong approach to take. It makes it harder for a justice to vote his conscience if his conscience comes out on the same side as the person who appointed him. So it's best if President Trump's lawyers remain silent about predicting what the outcome will be. It's perfectly okay if somebody like me can predict what the outcome will be, but Trump's lawyers ought to stay out of that business.